Happy Thanksgiving to you. I hope you have a beautiful day. And today I thought, because it is Thanksgiving, it is special, and I'm very thankful to have the access to the beautiful outdoors. I thought I'd just kind of scoot over here in the frame and let you just kind of take that in back there behind me and be thankful that we live in the land of the free, and that we can travel and be outdoors and kind of do the things that we enjoy doing. Albeit a little restricted this year, of course, but nevertheless, be thankful for what you have. Be thankful for dogs, even. Captain right here. I'm thankful for my buddy. Give me a big old hug there, dude. Oh, yeah, I'm thankful to have him. Thankful for my health and that of my families, and just so many, many, many things. And today I thought it'd be appropriate. About a year ago on a radio show that I was hosting at the time, I did a special about what would happen. You know, are dogs thankful for us? Are they happy that we're here for them? I guess they are. I mean, after all, I feed Captain pretty well, give him a nice bone, take him on outings, and just do a lot of stuff with him. I'd have to think, you know, if I passed away and came back as a dog, that's who I'd want to be right there. I really do. I think that he has an incredible life, and I think he is thankful for me. I think he is anyway. But what would happen to Captain? And what would happen to all of our dogs if all of a sudden we disappear? Yeah, let's say we just disappeared off the planet Earth. What would happen to our dogs in their current state right now? I'll put you in on that stuff, but it's bad for you. You're gonna end up, I won't be thankful later on if you end up puking that in my house. So chew in on that, buddy. All right. So I did this article. Actually, I didn't do the article. I did a radio show. The article was written by a gentleman by the name of Markham Hyde, and the title was How Dogs Would Fare Without Us If Humans Disappeared Tomorrow. Domestic dogs would have to call on their wild side in order to survive. And it was an article that was in the Time magazine. It was How Dogs Think, a special edition. And I really thought it was very interesting because they called upon many, many facets of our dogs currently today, how they survive today, how they basically parasitize off of us. And what would happen if all of a sudden that food source and that territory source and that shelter sources suddenly disappeared? And this question was posed to many ethologists, biologists, many scientists out there. And this is the answers that they came up with. I thought it was very cool. During the first years, if every dog were suddenly thrust into a Hunger Games style competition, it's tempting to think that certain breeds would outcompete others. And that scenario is not far off from what would happen. Here's the initial problems that would occur if we disappeared. Extreme body proportions we've bred into species over the ages would make some of them ineffective hunters. And that's absolutely true. Take a look at some of these big animals like the big mastiffs and the big Great Danes. They would be ineffective hunters. They would not be able to gather enough food to supply the energy needs that those large bodies need. And on the other end of the spectrum, I won't let my Morkies hear this part of the video. Morkies, Chihuahuas, Yorkshire Terriers, all those, they would wind up on the other side of the predator-prey equation. That's what would happen with them. They would suddenly become food. Instead of hunting for food, they would become the food. And in addition, Dr. Raymond Pierotti, professor of ecology and evolution biology at the University of Kansas, says large breeds such as Newfoundlands, Mastiffs, and St. Bernards would die off quickly because their organs are too small for their body mass. He says because of this, they already have a shorter than average lifespan, even in the safety of our homes. So again, they wouldn't last. And then the next breed that wouldn't last would be bulldogs. Bulldogs would become extinct within one generation. Just one generation, and there'd be no more bulldogs because they can't whelp naturally. Their heads are too large to pass through the birth canal, and therefore they have to be born through cesarean. So man, right off the bat, you can just start eliminating some of these really large breeds and some of the really small breeds. They would become food. The large breeds wouldn't be able to get food, and bulldogs wouldn't be able to reproduce and create other bulldogs without our help, without veterinary help. So guys, that's pretty of a bleak little scenario right there if you happen to own one of those breeds. So who would survive? Who would survive out there? Well, dogs that have the most recent wolf ancestry would do best. There you have it. Absolutely. No doubt in that. That's absolutely the truth. Those who have the most recent wolf ancestry will fall back on a skill set and on instincts that are still sharper than those of dogs that are further removed from wolves. Malamutes, Eskimo dogs, Huskies, Akitas, any Spitz-like dogs would fare the best because first, they're more aggressive. They are. And again, when you start getting into competition for food, strong survive. The most aggressive animals are going to have a little bit more of a resource holding potential, their ability to have more weapons, be more determined, to have a greater success in fighting using the hawk strategy versus the dove strategy. Absolutely, they have a better chance. And also, the males of these breeds have retained a good bit of their wolf paternal instincts. Wolf dads take care of their young until they're about 6 months of age. They watch over them, they feed them, they share in the care of the offspring. Unlike most domestic dogs, the male dog does nothing other than help create the puppies. And that's it. They don't do another darn thing. But a lot of these dogs that retained a lot of their wolf ancestry, they do. They do to a greater degree. And that's going to be necessary in order for the cubs to survive. Even out in the wild, when we have a mating pair, and they're new. They've left their natal pack. They've met up. They found a safe dwelling place, safe territory for their dogs. I mean, not their dogs, but for their offspring. See, here we go. Then they will mate until they find that safe dwelling place, a place that has an ample food supply, safety from alien wolves. They won't mate. They'll just continue to roam the land. But when they do, they don't have any offspring to act as babysitters. There's no chance for alloparent care. Therefore, if they want to survive, they want their puppies to survive, then they have to go hunting and leave their little cubs alone, undefended. And that's how we have a high mortality in young cubs. While mom and dad are away trying to get groceries, then along comes the big grizzly bear, the wolverine, the badger, the mountain lion, and they feed off the little cubs. It's really important that when the offspring, the litter becomes large enough and old enough to have a couple offsprings underneath the belt, then you have some of these older wolves that can take care of the younger wolves. But in the beginning, when it's just dogs out there and wild wolves, because they would certainly be out there, it'd be a competition. And mom and dad, it would help if both parents, instead of one, at least they'd have a better chance, twice a better chance, of raising their offspring and having them survive past that first winter, when they're probably old enough to be able to kind of take care of themselves. Most the dogs that have held some sort of their ancestral hunting abilities versus more of their wolf ancestry, but dogs have held more of their hunting abilities will also do very well. And those would be your border collies, cattle dogs. Hey, cattle dog, you got a chance of surviving, buddy. Well, maybe you're pretty spoiled. And hounds. Nearly all of these breeds are good size for hunting and killing prey, and they require less food to survive. I absolutely agree. Their body mass is not going to require as much energy, therefore they can sustain themselves on less energy. They're a good size to be able to defend themselves, but they're also a size in which they can now take down medium-sized animals to small animals like mice and rabbits. I think that's absolutely correct. Okay, well, anytime you do this and you start coming up with answers to questions that are posed in front of you like this as a scientist, you're going to fall under the scrutiny of your peers. And they're going to be the devil's advocate, and they're going to offer up, in most cases, a lot of contrasting views. For example, Mark Beckhoff, who's very well respected and a professor emeritus of ecology and evolutionary biology at the University of Colorado, argues that favorable conditions for survival depend more on intelligence and skill set rather than the breed itself. I agree with that too. I think this is less of a contrast and more of just an addition to. Yeah, you can be a cattle dog, but if you're not a smart cattle dog, you don't have any survival skills whatsoever. You hone none of those hunting skills that are in your genetic, deep entwined in your DNA, then yeah, it doesn't matter that you're a cattle dog. You still have to have a skill set. You still have to learn. And you'll have to learn the way the wolves learn. You either have to learn through mimicry, watching other animals and their successes, and doing goal-oriented emulation. You'll also have to learn through trial and error, and sometimes the error pays such a high price that you'll never recover from it. This will take time, but I do agree that intelligence and a skill set rather than breed will possibly win more. And he goes on to write, I think it would really come down to the individual dog and its environment, its experience and its cognitive skills. Some dogs are good foragers and some are good hunters. And some are just really crafty and street savvy. Counting out any dog breed solely on its breed is wrong-headed. And I agree, especially in the first years. So today I'm kind of talking about what's going to happen initially in those first couple of years. Tomorrow I'm going to carry this on and wrap it up. Just make it a little two-day event here and talk about what will it look like 50 years from now and what do we think it'll look like over 100 years from now. But all in agreement, they all agree that, all the sites agree that the dogs that do survive would likely form groups in working concert. Early gangs of dogs would form alliances to find or catch food. Yep, here we go. Producers and scroungers. Producers would start to forage for food, scroungers would parasitize off of them and follow them around. Over a period of time, those individuals will form alliances, and the alliances will then go against other alliances that are out there as they gobble up territory, gobble up food resources, anything that they can, mates, everything that's available to them to survive. No different than what we would be. There's a lot of movies out there that show apocalyptic type scenarios in which half of mankind is wiped out, and you got your zombies and the living dead, or maybe that's the same thing. I don't know. I don't really watch those movies. But the scenarios are, we would be really no different. We would try to survive as individuals, relying upon cognitive abilities, skill sets, determination, physical abilities. You can't take that out. You can be as smart as you want to be, but if you can't walk, then you're going to be seriously degraded in your abilities to survive in that type of scenario. And then we would start to form alliances. We'd finally find other individuals, and when we do, we find out that there's strength in numbers in defending resources and also acquiring resources. So I do believe that's going to happen. And according to Mark Durr, the author of How the Dog Became the Dog, he says initially they would be more like coyotes, yep, like individuals, which come together to hunt bigger game, but are also capable of solitary hunting. I absolutely agree. We would not become like wolves right off the bat, neither with our dogs. They'd be more like coyotes, individuals running around, maybe 1, 2, or 3 together, forming small alliances, and then finally it would start to take over and be more like packs. And we've already seen something very similar to that when after the Serbia and Croatian War, many dogs were unfortunately kicked to the curb because no one could afford to feed them any longer. This was a really war-ravaged part of the world. And so therefore there's been a lot of studies and observations of dogs that were pets to begin with, suddenly set free onto the world. Stephen Spott's book, The Societies of Wolves and Free-Ranging Dogs, talks a great deal about this. And what happened? Did they form alliances? Did you have producers and scroungers? Did they start to mate? Did they start to have characteristics very much like that of a wolf pack? Fall back on their ancestry and move forward with that. And they did. Mark Durr goes on to write, hunting skills may lack in the early years, but their willingness to eat almost anything will work to their advantage. So there you go. So that's the beginning of it. If it happened today, some big apocalyptic event and all the humans disappeared off the planet Earth, what would happen to that dear pet of yours, the one that you love so much, the one that you look at every day, play with, feed? What would happen to it? Well, that's just a little bit of a brief insight, and hopefully that will never come to pass. But it's always worth thinking about, because if anything, it helps you again to understand what it is that you own. What do you own? What occupies this home with you? What interacts with your children, with your neighbors, with you? What is it? What instincts drive it? If you weren't there to make it walk next to you, come to you when you call it, do stay in place, what would it do? If your house is blown away and you were gone, what would it eat? And we know, and as you'll find out even more tomorrow, exactly what we really believe they would do. What would they fall upon to survive? And knowing that helps us today, in that non-apocalyptic event, to understand more about our dogs. And the more we know about them, then the better off we're going to be in both their care and in their training. So again, it may never happen, but it's definitely worth thinking about. Always. Just to go back to my little mini-series on survival. You always got to think worst case scenario. And when you do that, you learn a whole lot about yourself. You learn a lot about those around you. What's really important to you. And again, very appropriate on a day like today. And I want you to really focus on that. Focus on your dog. Ask yourself today, how important is my dog to me? How thankful am I to have my dog? How thankful am I to have the food in front of me today? Yeah, in a survival situation, that meal may have to last 20 days. Be thankful for all of it, guys. I'm thankful for you, every single one of you that are dog owners out there. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for your support. Man, this is day 290. 290. Wow, just keep taking them off. Keep doing it. And I wouldn't do it if it wasn't for you. All right, guys, I'm out of here. It's Thanksgiving. I'm in charge of the bird. That's my job. So I got to go tend to that and make sure I do a good job with that. And everyone else is tending to the other little things that go along with our meal. I'm thankful for you. And I'm thankful for this back here as well. Amen.